Johnson, Melton, Rowe, Bagley, Harding, Hug. Mr. President.
Here. Please rise for the pledge and remarks by Councilmember Hart.
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. I want to first start out by saying that all of our thoughts and prayers are with those who have been affected by the fires in California and the incredible devastation that that we see on the news day in and day out. And today they're experiencing high winds again. So please keep those people in your thoughts and prayers. And then today is this body's first meeting of 2025. And in that spirit, I'd like to wish you all a Happy New Year. And it does seem kind of odd or peculiar to make such a wish being the 14th day of January, so halfway through the month. And so I kind of wondered, when's the appropriate time maybe to stop saying Happy New Year? So according to Anne Elizabeth Burnett, an etiquette consultant of some regard, she says that there is no date certain that it becomes inappropriate to do so. Most would agree that the wish does seem to lose its well-intentioned meaning after a week or so. And there is, however, a date set for what's known as National Quitters Day. And National Quitters Day is the day when many people give up on their New Year's resolutions. And that's generally thought to be the second Friday after the first of the year. So in this case, Quitters Day was January 10th. How are you doing on your resolutions? 2025 is full of promise and opportunity. Next week when we meet, there will be a new occupant in the White House. And this spring, the citizens will have the opportunity to decide who sits in these chairs, making decisions that will affect our community. There is so much momentum in Omaha, and I think that's something to be happy about. So for at least one more time, Happy New Year.
Thank you.
An affidavit of publication is on file for the pre-council and city council meeting, and a current copy of the Open Meeting Act is posted in a white binder on the east wall of legislative chambers.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Omaha City Council. We appreciate having you here today. We look forward to hearing your testimony on our many items. I would encourage you to turn your cell phones off or at least to vibrate. If you have any difficulty hearing the proceedings today, please see our building commission attendant in front here for listening devices, or you can also follow along in the back of the room, which is closed captioned. We did have on our agenda a proclamation for Battle of the Bulge by Councilman Hug, but he has elected to do that at a different date. So I do want to recognize Councilmember Melton just for a few words about a person we all knew who passed away recently.
I just wanted to recognize and let Swain Construction, Linda Swain, and everybody who was related to Greg Armstrong, who passed away on January 6th. Greg and Linda Swain, his wife, were actually one of the first, I think, SEB businesses when our program started. And they took a little construction company and they turned it into one of the biggest, construction companies that we have in Omaha. I think Greg and Linda and their guys have probably touched almost every street in the city, doing not just resurfacing, but big projects as well. And Greg was also a great guy. He was very generous. He loved his dogs. His golden retrievers always greeted you when you walked into their office. And his funeral was this morning. And so I know everybody from Public Works knows Greg as well. And I think he will be missed in our community. So thank you. Our thoughts and prayers are with the family.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Item 6, to consider a Class C liquor license for Cheddar's Scratch Kitchen 2216, located at 17373 Chicago Street.
The public hearing and vote on number 6 is today. Proponents, please.
Hi there, good afternoon.
Hi there.
I'm Laura Daisley, the managing partner for Cheddar's at the new Village Point location.
Thank you. And your address for the record?
17373 Chicago Street.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Are there any other proponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. No further lights. Roll call.
Johnson stepped out. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Thank you so
Motion
much.
passed 6-0.
Thank you.
Item 7, to consider a Class C liquor license for Cilantro's Mexican Bar and Grill located at 3309 Oakview Drive, Suite 101.
The public hearing and vote on number 7 is today. We have the applicant by Zoom. Mr. Alegria, we'll get you off mute here in a minute. Okay, try that.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm here.
Your name and address for the record, please?
David Alegria, and our new address is 3309 Oakview Park Drive, Suite 101.
All right, thank you. Are there any other proponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. There's a motion to approve and a second. Roll call.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thanks, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Item 8, to consider a Class CK liquor license for Tipsy Sisters located at 4611 South 96th Street, Suite 162.
The public hearing and vote on number 8 is today. Proponents, please.
Hi, my name is Misty Anderson. I am one of the owners of Tipsy Sisters.
I'm Leslie King, one of the owners of Tipsy Sisters.
Debbie Johnson, one of the owners of Tipsy Sisters.
Thank you. And together you are the Tipsy Sisters, right?
Yes.
That's what it's over with.
Are there any other proponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. There's a motion to approve and a second. Roll call.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thanks. Good luck.
Thank you. Sister and I will come in.
Yes, thank you.
Item 9, to consider a Class C liquor license for Trenzy Nails Wax and Spa located at 14615 West Maple Road, Suite 16.
Public hearing and vote on number 9 is today. We have the applicant by Zoom. Mr. Nguyen will get you off mute here in a minute. Or Miss Zoom, or Miss Nguyen, I'm sorry, go ahead. One more second. It's still on mute. We'll get you off here in a second. Okay, there you go. Try that.
Hi, my name is Nok Nguyen, and I'm the owner of Trenzy Nail Wax and Spa, and the address is 14615 West Maple Road, Suite 16, Omaha 68154.
Great, thank you. Any other proponents that want to speak? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Move the approval.
There's a motion to approve and a second. Roll call.
Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes,
Motion passed 7-0.
thank you.
Thank you.
Item 10, to consider a Class I liquor license for Omaha Airport located at 4501 Abbott Drive.
Public hearing and vote on number 10 is today. Proponents, please.
Mike Pallison, Klein Williams Law Offices, 12910 Pierce Street, Suite 200. Good morning, Mr. President, members of the City Council, here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any other proponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Mr. Pallison, we talked about this a little bit. It's a little bit unusual, only in the respect that this is this is the airport authority, right? And the airport property that's requesting the liquor license for your vendors.
Correct. We're not the airport authority. We are the sole vendor selected under the bidding process that was conducted over the last year, I guess. This is the license. We're operating under a temporary permit at this time. This is the permanent license for the transitional period to operate the 2 bars, one in each of the 2 concourses.
And then at such time, it moves to your newly selected contractors and vendors. There'll be a
Correct.
separate license coming back for all of those.
That's correct, which is 30 months plus or minus down the road.
Okay. And I know you've made some announcements about that. It sounds like some exciting local talent will be involved.
Pretty happy to hear that. We've got some local vendors lined up, including, I believe, Fernando's and Runza and a couple of others.
Great. Thank you. I don't see any further lights. Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Johnson. Melton. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
Item 11, to consider a Class I liquor license for Senor Tequila Mexican Restaurant located at 14440 F Street.
Public hearing and vote on number 11 is today. Proponents, please.
Hi all, my name is Luis Mara, M-A-T-A, owner of Senor Tequila, 14440 F Street in Omaha.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other proponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Johnson. Melton. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thanks.
Thank you, folks.
You bet.
Item 12, to consider a Class D liquor license for Fosse Vape and Liquor located at 614-616 South 72nd Street.
Public hearing and vote on number 12 is today. We have the applicant also by Zoom. We'll get you off mute here in a minute. Okay, try that.
Hi, my name is Prashis. I'm owner of the 616 South 72nd Street, the Fosse Vape and Liquor Store.
Great. I'm just here to answer questions, right? Are there any other proponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. There's a motion to approve and a second. Roll call.
Johnson. Melton. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Item 13, to consider a change of location application for Poor Decisions to locate 24601 Catalyst Court, Suite D105.
Public hearing and vote on number 13 is today. Proponents, please.
Hi, lucky number 13. I'm Megan Russo. I own Poor Decisions, currently located at 319 South 17th Street, looking to move to 4601 Catalyst Court.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. There's a motion to approve and a second. Roll call.
Johnson. Melton. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good luck.
Item 14, a resolution to schedule a hearing to determine if the Class C liquor license held by Crush Ultra Lounge should be canceled.
Public hearing and vote on number 14 is today. I think we'll hear from the city prosecutor's office here. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. David Grauman from the City Attorney's Office. This resolution is being requested pursuant to the City Council Law Committee, pursuant to Omaha City Code Section 15-33. The purpose of the resolution is to determine whether it's necessary to set a hearing to potentially cancel the liquor license for Crush Ultra Lounge. Crush is basically Throwback Empire LLC doing business as Crush. It was formerly Crush Lounge. As you can see from the resolution, the Law Committee has received a number of different police reports, tavern reports. 16 to be exact were included in this resolution, and those are dating from April of 2024 all the way through December of this year. You can see from the resolution again that the different violations that are alleged in these tavern reports relate to serving after hours. There's also a number of assault and batteries and different things that would lead to just an overarching pattern of disturbances. Those disturbances are also things that are affecting the community at large. The Law Committee has heard from different business associations as well as neighbors who are complaining about the activities that Crush's different events that they host typically on the weekends cause for the community in general. And so what you're looking for here is to determine, based on the evidence included in the resolution, whether there's enough to set a hearing and then look at evidence to see whether Nebraska Liquor Control Act, the rules and regulations of the Nebraska Liquor Control Commission, the orders imposed by that commission, which in this particular case, I think most of you are aware that there was an early closing time after we did a long form application. They put in place an early closing time, and some of the allegations in these police reports evidence the fact that there have been instances of serving after hours. And all of that together just creates a situation where we have repeated disturbances, and there are now grave concerns for safety in the area that the police department has expressed to the law committee. So in this particular case, you're going to decide whether you think it's necessary to schedule a hearing. That hearing would be next Tuesday, the 21st of January at 1 o'clock, if you vote in favor of this particular resolution. If you do not, the hearing wouldn't occur. Here to answer any questions you might have.
Great, thank you. Any other proponents on number 14? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Ms. Melton, you're recognized.
Oh, I think.
Go ahead.
Oh, are you sure?
Sure, yeah, that's fine.
Oh,
No.
I was going after you. I was just going to say that I support everything that Mr. Begley just said, but since I'm going first, as chair of the law committee, I just want to let everyone know the law committee has called these owners in multiple times. I think that the law committee and Omaha Police Department has done everything and bent over backwards to try and give these owners the opportunity to correct their ways and not disturb their neighbors. But it's gotten to the point where it's not just police that are being called there multiple times on weekends, there are times when you have to have 10 or more police cars, but it's also taking fire as well. Fire is also having to respond. So the amount of city resources that are being used by this one particular location and the amount of disturbances, I think it's my opinion, and we don't do this very often. In fact, since 2013, this might only be the second long hearing. We've done the long form multiple times, but I think this is the second one that I can think of. So we don't do this lightly. We don't call these hearings lightly, but sometimes it's the last resort. There's nothing more we can do, and we can't allow people who have liquor licenses to create the kind of disturbances that they're creating for the people of Omaha, their neighbors, and our first responders. So with that, I think Mr. Begley probably has some more detail.
Thank you, Mr. Begley.
Thanks, Mr. President. Thanks, Councilmember Melton, who is chair of our law committee that I sit on, along with Councilmember Harding. The reports are detailed in the resolution here today, and I'll echo what Councilmember Melton said. The disturbances that have taken place when it was the Throwback Lounge and now the Crush Ultra Lounge, we all want businesses to succeed, but it appears to me very clearly that the pattern of behavior has not been corrected, it's worsened. And that's what I am encouraging my colleagues to support this resolution and go forward to the January 21st cancellation hearing. Again, there's over 1,000 liquor licenses in the city, and if some establishments have challenges, the law committee calls them in and try to correct those measures, along with the Omaha Police Department, who do a tremendous job with stretch resources, protecting and serving, especially in the old market. Again, with the disturbances, the public safety challenges, not only to patrons that go to the Crush Ultra Lounge, but also people that live in the old market, a number of businesses that I continue to hear from on how it appears that clearly things have worsened. And that is why I'm looking forward to this passing today and having the hearing where the Crush Ultra can come and present their side, along with the city attorneys that's going to do it on our behalf. So I'll be supporting moving this forward today, and thanks to the law committee for the work we've done together, and to the Omaha Police Department for the continued safe measures that you put into place to try to respond to keep the peace in a challenging environment downtown for the Crush Ultra Lounge. And thanks to the city law department, who we spent a lot of time with, working to try to, again, correct the behavior, spell out measures that we want, thresholds to meet, and I'm sad that we're here today that that hasn't been done, but I'm looking forward to moving forward on this resolution and to our hearing if this passes today on the 21st of January. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. There was a gentleman with the law department that came up. I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
David Grauman.
Thank you, Mr. Grauman. I just have a few more questions. I'm looking at this resolution and I see a list of dates.
Sure.
Unfortunately, I don't see any supporting documentation on these reports that my colleague, Mr. Bagley, indicated that they reviewed or someone reviewed.
Tavern reports.
Right. Was that information shared with all city council members?
We've submitted it to the council, and we will have the tavern reports for all of you to review, yes.
You mentioned the word will. Was that a play on words or?
No, I was just advised that it was not disseminated to everyone, but we will make sure everyone gets it.
So should I understand that I'm being asked to support this without having that information?
Based on the information included in the resolution. That information, those are summaries of what's included in each tavern report. So the tavern report will provide the details, but the information included in the resolution itself, including those dates, they give identifiers for what occurred on each date.
So I'm not usually accustomed to a reference point of a list of items without supporting documentation. So that kind of makes me very leery or straddling the fence regarding my ability to make an informed decision or apply a due process. That if we're going to ask individuals to make an informed decision, it would be very helpful to provide that information in advance so that all of the information is available for us to make that decision. So I don't feel comfortable in terms of due process that me saying that that information is going to be forthcoming, listing here, because there could be, on some off chance, that there could be a date here that may be wrong or what have you. I don't know. There's too many unknowns. The list here goes from A to P, which is more than 10 events, but yet I don't have anything to work with other than dates. I really wish I could have some more information so that I could stick my feet into it. Thank you.
Yeah, your concerns are noted, and you're right. The due process in this particular case, that's what we're setting up. So the due process is scheduling the hearing. We've provided the managers of Crush notice of that particular hearing, advance notice. They will also be provided with all this information as well prior to the hearing. And then when we conduct the hearing, should you vote in favor of that and should the hearing occur, that's when you would have a chance to review all evidence and make a decision as to whether there was actually an action taken against their license.
Okay, due process is defined by my comfort level because I'm going to be the one that makes that decision. It's not defined by others.
I'm just speaking to what the city ordinance says, and the city ordinance defined that as due
Right,
process.
I'm just saying due process is defined by the individual that's making that decision. So I understand that tomorrow, and that's figuratively speaking, that information is going to be presented to me. However, before I take a action, I believe I should have all of the information that I need to before moving forward, just in case there could be some type of error. That's all I'm saying.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harding.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was just going to say, Dave, you don't need to come back. I was just going to say that today is not the hearing date. I mean, we'll be provided the evidence when we have the hearing or prior to the hearing. So this is just setting up and I'm on the law committee. I've had the, I don't know if opportunity is the right word, because there are something like 18 of these in 24 alone, in 2024 alone. So we'll see that evidence and have that opportunity on the 21st. But this is really just the list of the tavern reports. And as we say on the law committee, a tavern report is not necessarily a bad thing. If the operators of the establishment actually are following the rules and they make the proper notification to police or whoever they need to report the incident to. But in these cases, since I am on the law committee and have seen them, I would tell you that each one of these is not a good tavern report. So we will see the details of those prior to, if this passes, and we will see those details prior to the 21st, and then have the opportunity to make our decision on the 21st after hearing all the testimony.
Thank you. Ms. Milton.
Yeah, and I think this is something different that you don't see a lot. Like I said, we've only done this once before, just since I've been on council. And so at this meeting that we're setting for a hearing, this board will sit kind of almost like a quasi judicial setting, because what we do is we hear the evidence from the city council, and then the other side is provided due process, because due process is defined as if you're accused, you're able to present your defense. You're being provided the ability to have the hearing, and that's the definition of due process. So what we're deciding today is, are we going to set the hearing, and then we provide Crush and their owners with the due process that they're entitled to, and sitting as a kind of a quasi-judicial function when we do this to cancel their liquor license. I would say in most cases, actually, judges don't get all the evidence beforehand. They get the evidence at trial. And so we are going to, at least this body will have the ability to see all of these reports prior to the hearing, but there's no point in distributing all of this unless the hearing is set. And so I would ask that all of the tavern reports be provided as soon as possible to all members of council. I can tell you, looking at the A through P, because the law committee has spent so much time reviewing these tavern reports, meeting with these owners, and talking with police, that this is an accurate summary, and this is just a summary. And look at it; it's a couple pages long of the things that are happening in and around Crush. Now, any council member can hear the evidence presented by the city council at this hearing, and then they can hear Crush's defense. They get to offer their side, and at that time, any of the council members up here can vote no. They can decide whether or not it rises to the level of having their liquor license canceled, and all of us will have a vote on that. And we don't make our vote until both sides get to present their case. And so today is just setting that hearing date.
Thank you. Mr. Begley.
Thanks, Mr. President. Mr. Kuzy, question for you, since Mr. Grauman's kind of a little under the weather with his voice.
Sorry, Matt Kuzy, Law Department.
Matt, good afternoon. Can you please, I think it's important to read into the record. We don't have the reports, but can you go through and just read the dates and what the issue is for each one of those that are in the resolution? I know it's publicly available, but I think it's important for people that don't have that documentation, if you could quickly go through what each one of those A through P are.
Sure. As Councilmember Harding said, the resolution for the council to vote on today is merely to set the hearing for next Tuesday. The resolution's other purpose is to put primarily Crush, but also the public, on notice that this is what the city will be alleging as the evidence that would warrant a cancellation of the liquor license. But on the resolution, you have April 13th, 2024, open containers on licensed premises after closing hours and disorderly conduct. April 22nd, 2024, assault and battery and disturbances inside, outside the premises. May 19th, 2024, open containers on licensed premises after closing hours. May 25th, 2024, open containers on licensed premises after closing hours. September 1st, 2024, disturbances outside of the premises. September 15th, 2024, open containers on licensed premises after closing hours, disorderly conduct, and obstructing and resisting. September 21st, 2024, assault and battery and disturbances inside, outside the premises. September 29th, 2024, shooting outside of the premises. October 13th, 2024, disorderly conduct, fighting. I just lost my place. October 27th, 2024, disturbances outside of the premises. November 22nd, 2024, disturbance outside of the premises. November 23rd, 2024, assault and battery and disturbances inside, outside the premises. November 30th, 2024, disorderly conduct, assault and battery, and possession of an open container in a public place. December 1st, 2024, assault and battery and disturbances inside, outside the premises. December 15th, 2024, disorderly conduct, fighting. December 21st, 2024, felony assault, stabbing, theft of a firearm, destruction of city property, and disturbances inside, outside of the premises.
Thank you, Mr. Kuzi. And as a council member for the district that this establishment resides in, I've had a lot of conversations with business owners, constituents, downtown improvement district, emails, and again, we don't want businesses to fail. We want them to be good neighbors, and I'm looking forward to, if the council's will is to move this forward with this resolution, as I said in my previous remarks, for due process for the Throwback Lounge, formerly now as the Crush Ultra Lounge, to be represented by council to present their side of the story to this body. And that is the reason, again, sitting on the law committee, working with everyone on it, I am comfortable moving forward with this, being in the middle of the old market in my district, and to have this case heard. Thanks, Mr. President.
Is that a motion?
A motion to support this item number 14.
There's a motion and a second. Roll call.
Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-1. Item 15, a resolution to approve the preliminary plat for El Toro Plaza located at 2405 Z Street. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing and vote on number 15 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon, Joe Detlefs, TD2, 10836 Old Mill Road. Also with me is the applicant.
Ryan Sell, 2405 Z Street, Omaha, 68107.
Thank you. Any other proponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Item 16, a resolution to approve the preliminary plat for West Bay Woods Estates located at 18222 F Street. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing and vote on number 16 is today. Proponents, please.
Hello, my name is Joe Foley with Foley Schald Engineering, 14503 Grover Street. Here with the applicant today, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have on this.
Thank you. Any other proponents that want to speak? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. There's a motion and a second. Roll call.
Johnson.
Yes.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thanks.
Item 17, an ordinance to rezone property located at 4522 Brown Street from R435 District to R5 District. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing and vote on number 17 is today. Proponents, please.
Tyrone Blair, 4522 Brown Street.
Thank you.
And Catherine Frito, 4522 Brown. We're supposed to say the address we're trying to rezone, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
Just to make sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Johnson. Melton. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Items 18 through 20 can be considered together for property located northeast of 36 and Leavenworth Street. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. B is Communications. Item 18, an ordinance to rezone this property from GC District to TOD2 MX District. Item 19, an ordinance to approve a PUR overlay district. Item 20, an ordinance to rescind the ACI overlay district.
Public hearing and vote on items 18 through 20 are today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon, members of the council, Mr. President. My name is Ryan Spellman, 9951 Harney Parkway North. I'm the developer of the project. What we're proposing is 85 new construction apartment units right there on Leavenworth Street, hoping to serve the city by creating more housing and accommodating, that huge need that we have. I have my civil engineer here to help answer any questions as needed. Look forward to answering your questions.
Great, thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Bagley, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. President. Mr. Spellman, good afternoon. Question regarding this. I know you had conversation with some of the faithful in the Leavenworth Neighborhood Association regarding parking and storage for bicycles. Where are you at on that item that was discussed in an email of opposition and your discussion with the neighborhood?
So we are compliant with the TOD zoning that we are seeking in terms of parking count compared to number of units. There was some question from the neighborhood and concern that the bicycle storage room that we're providing as an amenity to the residents was not large enough, in their opinion. I took that into consideration. I do believe that we have other areas of the building where we can provide additional bike storage. That is something that we're still working on. To help ease the parking concerns, I've also reached out to Hannah Adapanu with the city. It's my understanding that the city is in the process of purchasing some parking garages from the Midtown Crossing development, and I have an email from Hannah. We've had some discussions, and when that transaction takes place later in 2025, she said that we can circle back and look at a potential parking agreement, which I'm very open to. It's less than a half-mile walk away, 8 to 10-minute walk, and I think that could be a great solution to help ease some of those concerns.
Okay, and in respect to the neighborhood association, they have your contact information, and you can communicate to them as a project moves forward on storage and other issues that they may still have.
Absolutely, they have all of my information. I'm more than happy to speak with them anytime.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Mr.
Thank you.
President. I'll make a motion to support these 3 items today.
Second. There's a motion and a second. No further lights. Roll call.
Johnson. Melton. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thanks.
Item 21, a resolution to approve the Oxworth Apartments Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Project Plan located southeast of 27th and Leavenworth Streets in an amount up to $6,511,697.
The public hearing and vote on number 21 is today. Proponents, please.
Hi, good afternoon. Don Seaton, City Planning. This is a residential infill project located South Leavenworth, 26th and 27th Streets. It's a substantial project. Been in the works for quite some time. It's a large new apartment building, 194 market rate units, be 4 and 5 stories in size. Developers Alameda Leavenworth LLC. It's a $43 million investment in the neighborhood. It's on an old dairy site. Kind of an interesting old photo. TIF support is $6,511,000, $6,511,697. It's been in the works for quite some time. We looked at a smaller version in 2020. This provides residential density in our urban core, complies with our master plan. We ask for your approval.
Thank you. Other proponents?
Good afternoon. Tom McClay, 5200 Webster Street. Clarity Development Company is my company. I'm here with Brett West, who works with Surety Life Insurance out of Lincoln, who are our development partners on this. I appreciate them coming up from Lincoln and supporting good projects here in Omaha. This has been here before you all on the rezoning and the replat a month or so ago. And thank you for Don working with us and giving a nice summary of the project. The only points I would add, this is to me a very wonderful use of TIF and very appropriate. One, as Don indicated, it's been about 10 years that I've been assembling properties in this location. It's about 1.6 acres total, which includes here, you'll note, this is the historic cold storage warehouse of the Alameda Dairy that we are going to retain, redo as our community space, our community clubhouse for leasing office, community room, workout facility, which we love having a little bit of the historic fabric to retain and bring into the project and keep for the neighborhood. As I just mentioned, this was the Alameda Dairy. This was there for, I think, about 75 years that it was located there, beginning just after the turn of the 20th century, so the early 1900s. You can see the interesting mixture here of horse-drawn carriages delivering milk with gas-powered vehicles in that era. This building here in the 1980s, they demolished it. It might have been in the city of Omaha. I don't really know. It's before I was paying attention to these things. And in that era, they just came in, pushed all the walls in the basement, and covered it with dirt. So to redo this property into useful application for the city of Omaha, we have a lot of work to do. We're going to have to pull all those foundations out. We're going to have to pull out that old basement. Additionally, the environmental laws were not as stringent, as you might know, back in the 1910s, 20s, 30s. So there was a robust amount of contamination that we have remedied. We ended up digging already about a 30-foot pit in there to start taking out some of that contamination, removing it, and taking it to be disposed of safely. So those are the massive hurdles that any developer like myself will have to overcome to go into a tight urban site like this. To do what we really believe, as Don mentioned, a sizable project and bringing 194 high-quality apartments to a neighborhood that has not seen a lot of development or growth as of yet. But we hope the size and the gravity of this project will beget more development moving forward. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any other proponents that want to speak today?
Cheryl Weston, 1124 Pacific Street, Omaha, Nebraska, 68108. I stand before you today as a partial proponent. Why do I say partial? Because it's not 100% proponent for it. However, I do wish that more of these TIF projects, particularly within this area, would have more affordable housing. Yesterday at a luncheon, I listened to 3 of the city council members, Councilmember Rowe, Councilmember Harding, and Councilmember Melton, who said that Omaha has a shortage of 30,000 to 40,000 housing, particularly shortage of affordable housing. However, when I look at this plan on this TIF, which is in the packet of information you received, this is really not affordable housing. It clearly says market rate. How do you justify projects of this when we need so many 30,000 to 40,000 affordable housing? Perhaps especially in this area, but when I see projects like this being developed within the area, it kind of looks similar to regentrification, because what it is doing is bringing people in who can afford these market rate homes and moving people out of the community that can't afford it. And that's the reason why I put this example up there. When you look at a person seeking a one-bedroom home at $1,427 a month, and if they park in the parking area, paid parking area, they would have plus parking. At $21 an hour, and that's not the average pay for individuals working here in Omaha that would really like to be down in that area or already live in that area. Their gross pay would be $1,759. When you look at just the minimal taxes taking out, that doesn't include any insurances that may be occurred, they're left with $1,441. That barely covers their monthly payment for one bedroom. So I just wish that the developers, I don't know, all of a sudden it must have been somebody's cologne up here has got me going. Sorry. The particular developer has been involved in several of the Blackstone projects, such as the Blackstone Hotel, the Blackstone East Mixed Use Building. Some of the individuals that I have talked to that are within the Blackstone, they justify the argument, it's kind of like moving them out. So this area will be kind of the same. The market rate rents, they're not for the affordable. So I promote the ideal of having development within the area, the ideal of the particular apartments, having parking and so forth. But I just wish that maybe the developers could look at maybe reducing some of those apartments that could be market rate, make them more affordable, or reducing some of the rate. Because when I looked at the pro forma, the first year's rent, our income rather, was $148,000. In year two, $763,000, and in year three, $810,000. So maybe they could look within their heart and say, you know, maybe we could reduce our net cash flow and make some of those apartments a little bit more affordable. And perhaps you can ask those questions. Again, I think it's a good project, and thank you for your leadership, Council President Festerson, for not rudely interrupting me during my time at the podium.
Thank you. Any other proponents today?
Don Seaton, City Planning, if you can indulge me to come a second time. One item I forgot to mention is that this is a project within the Urban Core Housing and Mobility District, so there will be a contribution to the city streetcar system and construction. Thank you.
Thank you. Other proponents today? Seeing none, opponents?
Donnie R. Johnson, the Johnson City Question Foundation, and the North Omaha Concerned Citizen Foundation. What I have noticed in the last few months, some of you folks may not be here because it's the election year coming up. So some of you folks might lose your job. In the meantime, I'm not so concerned about what the developers are doing and their growth and all that stuff. What I'm more concerned about is that the money that we're losing out on the departments of roads, not getting their share of the money for the construction people, tearing up our streets. No, that's my job to say, okay, there's your problem. They're building some wonderful projects around here, but who's collecting the money for the streets they're tearing up? And then blaming the mayor for the chuck holes. So they're gonna have to move some money onto the side for some of these streets of all this stuff they're tearing up. You know, that last week, I seen a truck bigger than this city of Omaha, downtown. And they had to be over at least 7 tons. And the street says, 1 ton, do not enter. This one's 8 tons.
All right, Donnie, if you stick
Have
to
a
this
good day.
topic, right? All right. Any other opponents, please?
Larry Storr, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha, 68132. As usual, I'm against this project because it is TIF. And because it won't get done without TIF. In other words, the developers don't want to spend their own money. this once again, due to lack of transparency, the taxpayers in Omaha and property owners along the routes are being hoodwinked. And I think you need to have more transparency. Now, I've been sitting in here for quite a few years, and as I see this, Leavenworth is a main runway for maybe the big bus, because you want to be able to transfer people all the way downtown, but also to the University of Nebraska. If you drive that route and look at what's happening, part of that Leavenworth stretch is too narrow, according to the other parts of Leavenworth. And there's various little projects along the way, such as right across from my dental office, a J. Noddle development that got TIF, and their townhomes worth over $400,000 and some thousand. Now, if I'd have come up here as a proponent and said a lot of those things that were really opposing it, but end it with I'm still in favor, you probably would have cut me off long before I got there. But you need more transparency. Now, I heard this gentleman say that he's been developing properties in that area for 10 years. Well, what does that tell you? This is not a new developer. So to stop pulling the wool over our eyes and explain to us how many property owners, residences particularly, are going to lose part of their property or all of it, and pay ad valorem taxes that you do not define, and the Attorney General is after you for not doing that because it relates to property tax. Now, if you erase businesses along, then who the hell is going to pay the property tax? You really believe that Jay Noddle will pay all the property taxes on all of his condominiums and townhomes? I doubt it. I don't know who else does that, but I see his name on a lot of those. Thank you for not interrupting me, but I do want to end up with this before you do.
You are getting off topic, so let's wrap it up, please.
If I would have come up as a proponent, as I briefly mentioned, but also if I would have come up with products in my arms, a book, for example, just today it says something about the law, you would have cut me off and kicked me out of here long ago. So thank you for not doing this to those people in 2025, and I hope you don't do it to me anymore.
All right, thank you. Any other opponents? Seeing none, public hearings closed. Mr. Bagley, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. President. Mr. McClay, please. Good afternoon. I've worked downtown for 35 years, driving down Leavenworth Street, and just going from Saddle Creek, and I drive past the Med Center, 42nd Leavenworth, down through all the development going on where the mill is by the Leavenworth Neighborhood Association, down across 480, and you got Columbus Park, and you go down, you got the old market. You can take a right turn to go to Little Bohemia, and you can go north to the old market and the Capital District. When I was elected in 2021, when I drive by, I'll back up, on 27th and Leavenworth, that's been a vacant lot for how long?
Well, like I said, I think the first parcel there was 11 years ago. Okay. I think so. At least that long. It's probably
a decade.
I think it's been since the building was demolished in the 80s. It's been empty.
So it's been a long time.
Decades.
Fair to say. So you would approach me. You were going to do a development there with some light tech loans. What? Just briefly touch on that when in 21 for that location.
Yeah, so we had been working on a project for a low-income housing tax credit there, and that was on just part of the parcel. It was not on the totality of the land. It was just the western portion. We did not yet own the eastern portion of it. At that time, a couple of things happened. Importantly, interest rates skyrocketed. And low-income housing tax credits and the financing behind them are very tightly tied and correlated to interest rates. So that combined with the type of low-income housing tax credits we utilize, called 4% low-income housing tax credits, were no longer available from the state of Nebraska. There's a limited supply of federal tax credits that the U.S. Treasury Department gives to each state, and that is now massively oversubscribed, about 10 to 1. So the amount that they give to each state is based on population, and people, because of the desire for more housing using low-income housing tax credits, are in great demand. So we would unable to get those credits, even if we could get those credits. The interest rate pricing plus the construction pricing exploded, as you know. During the COVID pandemic, the supply chains got snarled so badly, materials went up, the labor costs skyrocketed at the same time. So it became absolutely unable to do that project in any way, shape, or form. I wouldn't have any money or any affordability to do it.
Okay, I appreciate you sharing that. I know, again, that's been sitting vacant, and you reach out and had neighborhood meetings. You spoke to Columbus Park and the quarters and others when this process started, when you switch over from the Light Tech Avenue that didn't work to where you're at today, correct?
I did, and I spoke with the president, the treasurer, secretary of Columbus Park. I did also speak with the Neighborhood Association of the North. I think they call themselves the Quarters. Indicate what we're doing. Talked to the immediate neighbors there around Arbor Garage, St. Peter's Church, and all of them expressed support in general for the project.
Okay, thanks, Mr. McClay. I'll make a motion to support this today, Mr. President. Thank you.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. McClay. If you could come back up. Thank you. First of all, I would like to applaud you for your efforts in taking a look at developing this area, since it has been sitting and not being addressed or nothing happening there for such a long period of time. But I also would have to be concerned or have similar concerns that Ms. Weston presented to us today as it relates to affordable housing. Affordable housing is a term that is just being used from a broad perspective these days. It really doesn't have any meat or potato to it, because what's affordable to me may not be affordable to you. And so my experience in that area in terms of the level of income, most of those individuals, as Ms. Weston has already pointed out, unfortunately, they won't be able to satisfy the needs of this project. Not saying that the project is bad, I'm just saying the reality is that they won't be able to afford that. The definition of being a good mix for income, HUD has defined that as being 30% of someone's income. So for some folks, the average income is $20,000 a year. So quite naturally, they won't be able to occupy one of the apartments. So with that being said and all of that being considered, I think for the city of Omaha, we're going to have to look at a mixed blend or a mixed bag so that we are inclusive of everyone, depending on no matter what their price range may be. And while it's true that we're getting a lot of development and a lot of needs as far as housing is concerned is currently being addressed, hasn't been addressed for a very long time. Again, from a holistic standpoint, we need to look at all of those barriers and all of those perspectives and arrive at a destination point where we don't push folks out or try to not push folks out, and also be mindful that the numbers as it relates to homelessness is still escalating. And are those individuals that find themselves to be homeless, is it because they fit into the category of only making 20,000 and not being able to find housing to fit their pocketbook. These are all things that we, as the city of Omaha, in my perspective, and I believe it should be everyone's perspective, we need to consider, because when we have folks that are not able to take care of themselves, we're all at risk in terms of crime, in terms of being safe when we go out and about and take care of our day-to-day business. And so that's just to give you some insight of what's happening in my head as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy.
sharing.
There was a motion a second, wasn't there?
Yes.
Okay, so we're all already there. I just want to remind everyone that there's no requirement for a project that's requesting TIF to have a mix of housing units in there. This is the developer's project that they have presented to us. It is at their risk. And quite frankly, this one of the things that sometimes doesn't get mentioned about affordable housing is that when you build housing product at different points in the strata, if you will, of housing, that it opens up opportunities when people move out of one unit into a different unit. It leaves a unit behind that can be occupied, and quite reasonably, you might expect that someone moving into here is probably moving up from one kind of level to another. So I want to make sure that we get this back on task here. What we're doing is we're looking at a project redevelopment plan for this project alone, and not making it a requirement that they have an affordable housing component to it, because that is not a requirement of TIF. So I'm glad that the motions have been made to approve and seconded, and we'll definitely be in support of this, because I think it's a great project, and I appreciate your investment in the area. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Councilman Harding. Thank you, Councilman Johnson, for sharing your views. You're 100% correct, Councilman Harding. The more supply of apartments, and it's been study after study after study done around the United States, the more supply of housing, the more supply of apartments lowers the price across the board because of what you just described, people moving up. That is, it's almost arguing against gravity to suggest that isn't what happens, and that is. And I would say, I did want to make sure I'll refresh back, tax increment financing. This project would not happen without tax increment financing because of the challenges of a torn down old brick building sitting under the dirt, environmental concerns. This would sit, as Councilman Begley was alluding to, this would sit as a vacant, weed infested lot for decades more without the ability to use tax increment financing. We're simply leveling the playing field between building here or building outside of Omaha in a cornfield, in a place where I didn't have to deal with, the environmental concerns, foundations, rock, gravel, all of those things that we're challenged with. That's the reason we're asking for TIF, and that's how we utilize it to make this happen. And the final thing I'll say is on Ms. Weston, I will try to buy more expensive cologne. I'm sorry about the cheap cologne smell.
Mr. Rowe, you're recognized.
Thank you too, Tom. I appreciate your coming down and presenting this. I wanted to I'm not here to justify this as being an affordable housing project. Clearly it's not, doesn't meet the definition, but I did want to make sure that the facts were right and the math was right, and I couldn't understand the math that Ms. Weston presented, so I just quickly did it on my own. At $21 an hour, a person working 2,080 hours, which is 52 weeks at 40 hours a week, would earn $43,680. And if you took 30% of that and used it toward housing costs, it'd be $1,092 a month. And your studio apartments are going to rent for $1,050, and that's for one person living in the apartment. If you had two people, it makes the numbers even better. So I just wanted to correct the math, just to make sure that everybody understood that was right. Cheryl, you can sure come up. I'd be glad to hear you come up.
Thank you.
Cheryl Weston, 1124 Pacific Street, 68108. The math was not my math. It was off of pay service. They did a calculation, and they took that as being one weekly pay. So, and looking at one bedroom, your amount came to be able to take a studio. I was looking at one bedroom. So you can't have apples and oranges.
Okay, appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Okay. There's no further lights. There is a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Johnson. Melton. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Consent agenda. Any member of the City Council may cause any item placed on the consent agenda to be removed. Items removed from the consent agenda shall be taken up by the City Council immediately following the consent agenda in the order in which they were removed, unless otherwise provided by the City Council Rules of Order.
There's been a request to remove number 25 off the consent agenda. So first, we'll take items 22 through 24 and 26 through 29. I'll note these public hearings were held on December 17th. I don't see any further lights on these items. Is there a motion?
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second to approve these items. Roll call.
Johnson. Melton. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
We'll now take item number 25.
Yep. Item 25, an ordinance to approve the City of Omaha and Douglas County joint application for the fiscal year 2024 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Program.
The public hearing was already held. Is there a council member that wants to speak to this item? Press your lights, please. Ms. Johnson, was your light on?
Mr. Hood can go first.
Okay, Mr. Hug, you're recognized.
That's what happens when you're gone for 2 weeks, huh? Can we get the Deputy Chief Servany come up, if you would, please? Don't interrupt Cheryl.
Steve Servany, Deputy Chief, Omaha Police Department.
Just a couple of quick questions, and this is like the 6th or 8th year we've received this grant?
Yes.
Okay, could you just, without going into details, but just give us a quick snapshot overview of exactly when this grant was applied for, there was some specifics it was requested for, to be used for a defined purpose. So you just give us a quick snapshot of
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. Thank you for the opportunity. This is a federal grant that the department relies on to help contribute to fund some very valuable programs that are not included in our regular operational budget. So there's a fairly lengthy list, which I'm happy to share, but basically some of the items on that list would include training for our internal affairs investigators when they receive complaints about officers. This allows them to attend training to become certified investigators, as well as our background unit investigators, which complete very important investigations for potential police candidates. This would allow funding for the NATIA annual conference, which allows officers in our what used to be known as our vice unit to attend training to install high voltage surveillance systems around the city when approved to do so through a warrant process. And some of these involve investigations that would include potentially sex trafficking, fentanyl investigations, and things like that. So some very important investigations, and it's critical training. Some other examples of training that this would help fund would be our new Bloodhound unit certification, which is very valuable in terms of missing persons investigations and potential homicide investigations and things like that. It's a very valuable resource. It will fund some virtual reality virtual headsets, which again allows us to go mobile and train officers in precincts all over the city for all types of potential incidents that could occur, whether it be de-escalation to behavioral, proper way to handle behavioral health issues, all the way up to including potentially lethal use of force incidents as well. So again, real critical training that we need to do on an ongoing basis. This helps provide us the opportunity to do that. It's going to purchase a forensic digital microscope system, which allows our forensics technicians, like the CSI people, highly specialized positions, to process crime scenes and help them to detect trace evidence, especially when it comes to DNA. So again, we're very proud of our recent clearance rates. This helps contribute to those factors. It's going to purchase some level 3 ballistic shields for our command cars. Again, volatile situations involving firearms, the command officers can show up and they've got some protection to tactically manipulate around that particular incident, whatever is evolving. It's going to purchase a canine dog. Those are about roughly $15,000, a little more than $15,000. The level of training and the expertise has risen recently, so they're a little bit more costly than they used to be. But again, the canine is a very valuable resource that we utilize on the department, as you know. Also is going to go towards some community outreach programs, as well as our crime prevention specialists. So it'll help fund very valuable programs around the community, such as the Youth Academy, the Citizens Academy. It will allow overtime opportunity for our officers to attend and interact with the public at a whole host of events throughout the community throughout the duration of this grant period. So it's very important to us. We're very intentional with our community outreach, and this helps allow us to do that more so. And another valuable program that it helps fund are our core, our behavioral health unit overtime operations. These allow a mental health professional. As you know, we have 7 co-responders, 7 mental health professionals. This allows for overtime operations where they pair up, one co-responder pairs up with an officer, and they go out on a regular basis and interact with behavioral health incidents. So there's a couple programs, one we call Familiar Faces. They'll go out and reach out to these individuals, essentially just to follow up, see how they're doing, provide proper resources, and it helps keep the level of 911 calls regarding these types of issues low. And then they'll also take 911 calls that are related to behavioral health issues, which real time helps alleviate the call load for our officers on that particular shift. So again, it's very valuable funding that we rely on from this federal grant that our operational budget would not normally allow for.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson?
Thank you. Steve, thank you. We mentioned, or I talked a little bit about this during pre-council, shared with you that I would like to ask a few questions just to educate and provide general understanding of what this grant does and how it helps the community. So, and also I shared that as the president of LULAC for Political Affairs and as council member, I have been contacted by LULAC with concerns and questions about the City of Omaha and Douglas County joint application to the U.S. Department of Justice, Office of Justice Program, Bureau of Justice Assistance for the Edward Bryan Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Program. To address these concerns comprehensively, I am requesting clarification on the following points. 1, who are the key stakeholders involved in the joint application and how were they chosen? Who will oversee the implementation of programs funded by the grant?
Yes, Councilwoman, great questions. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. So it is a joint application. It's a joint project with this grant with Douglas County, as well as the City of Omaha. I believe it's roughly a $358,000 grant that spans from October of 23 through 2027. And it will help fund these programs for the Omaha Police Department will receive about $168,000 of that $358,000. And so we work very closely. The police department has a grant coordinator, and he does a fantastic job. And we work very closely with the City of Omaha grant unit as well. And so each of these items that are listed out on the grant when it's applied for is basically assigned a coordinator, and it's a person within the department usually who oversees that area of the department. And so we have quarterly grant meetings, and those coordinators that oversee these specific areas show up, and they're responsible for reporting how the money is being spent, if it's being spent, when it will be spent if it's not, and how the whole process is going. So it's run very well, very closely with the City of Omaha Grant Department and Douglas County.
So I know I caught you off guard, so I'm going to ask that you provide a list of those stakeholders later. If you could share that with me via email or with City Council as a whole. What specific initiatives or programs will the funding support, and how were these priorities identified? What measurable outcomes does the city and the county aim to achieve with these funds?
Yeah, so the examples that I gave earlier would be an array of what we do with the money and what our goals are. And I'm certainly happy to discuss with you and provide you any and all information about these, but those would be some specific examples. And I could take 3 or 4 hours and talk about all the goals and all the activities that we use, all the items we use this money for. But certainly a couple of examples, again, that are very important to us are the community outreach aspect. And this grant covers a whole range of areas, but the community outreach is very important. So like I said, we can send officers on overtime to attend a lot of important community events and interact so that we build those relationships with the people that we serve. We get to know them, they get to know us. It's critical to our mission. The behavioral health unit, the core unit with corresponders and the officers who are out there working with individuals experiencing behavioral health crises. Those are just 2 examples, and I can give you a whole host of events and activities, the Youth Academy, the Citizens Academy, and a whole host of events and activities that we participate in on a weekly basis, really.
I think from a broader sense, the community could use some knowledge in that, say, now that we're beefing up how we are reporting things in the news media, which the city has done a better job at making weekly announcements now of city council meetings, things like that. I think this area could have some highlights that could be shared with the community at large that would help us kind of tag where these funds are going and how we're actually benefiting from that. So when will the funding be allocated and utilized if the grant is approved?
So if you approve the acceptance of the grant today, it would be fairly recently. I know, Mark, you could probably elaborate on that better than me. And I will just say quickly, agree with you 100%. We're always looking for ways to communicate, interact, listen to the public. Our social media platforms is one way we do that. And it's a great idea to talk about some of these items through our social media. And I will talk to our public information office about that. Thank you.
Margaret Purdue, Grant Manager, 1819 Farnham Street. To the question about when these would be approved, this is actually the review of the application. This isn't the acceptance of the award. The acceptance of the award will be forthcoming, but this is part of the grant requirement, making it available to the governing body and for public review. And the budget that breaks down the applied for items is included as part of the packet.
Okay, with that being understood, that what's before us at this time is for us to approve receiving the grant today. Then my next question is, what is the anticipated timeline for implementation and reporting?
The grant award acceptance would be most likely on agenda for vote in the first week of February. And then following approval, then we would begin to work with the federal government for financial clearance of the award, and we would work with city departments to notify them when spending was available, when we had financial clearance. So it depends somewhat on the federal government timelines when we would be able, but we would anticipate in spring of this year. And then with Douglas County, we would have a sub-award agreement that would, again, come before City Council for approval before we could begin spending on that portion of the award.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And where will the funding programs and initiatives be focused? The information is vague. Will it be primarily east of Omaha, or where can you be specific about neighborhoods or communities, identify priority areas, and what criteria is going to be used to determine those locations?
In a general sense of this grant program, they're not, it's citywide. It's available citywide for these funds. And these programs aren't specific to any specific area of the city. I don't know if there's more specifics with OPD, but the general overview of the JAG program is designed to assist units of local government with respect to their criminal justice needs. So that's the application that's been put forth, and it is to be utilized throughout the city. I don't know if you have anything on that.
Yeah, 100%. So a lot of the resources this allows for will be used entirely throughout the city. I'm going to say some of the programs that we do regularly, weekly, if not daily, involve the youth center and some alternative group homes, and those are east of 42nd Street. That's one example of some programs we take part in on a regular basis, but it would be ultimately throughout the entire city.
Okay, and then why is the joint application critical for the city of Omaha and Douglas County, and how does it align with the broader community as it relates to safety, justice goals, and particularly those for underserved communities?
Critical because as much as we enjoy support from our local government, from the city council and the mayor, when there are needs, you go above and beyond to help us, but the budget doesn't take care of everything. And so we do have these opportunities. Sometimes it's through state grants, sometimes it's through philanthropic donations, and sometimes it's through these federal grants that we're able to, spend money and purchase critical things for us to operate in a much more proficient, advantageous manner than we would be able to without some of this funding. And I won't reiterate or repeat what I said before, but I think those are pretty good examples of how we do use that grant money to serve the public.
Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. Ms. Milton, you're recognized.
Thanks, and I might be able to actually further answer the question about what the county and the city jointly kind of applying. And the reason I can answer that is we've been getting these JAG and VAWA grants. When I started with the county attorney's office in late 2004, and Mr. Kuzi was there too, we were getting these grants because some of what these grants cover is prosecution and pays for county attorney salaries. In fact, one of our domestic violence prosecutors was covered by this grant. So we've been getting these grants for at least 20 years. I don't remember how much before that time that I started, we were getting those grants. So it's been 20 plus years. But Omaha Police and obviously City Prosecutor's Office and then the County Attorney's Office works with the Omaha Police Department. So this is criminal justice money. And so the county and the city actually work together hand in hand in anything we do that's criminal justice related. Obviously, the county attorneys and Don Klein's office, who cover all the felonies, are working with all of the Omaha police officers, especially in some of those major, obviously any of the felony crimes and all of the domestic violence. Even the misdemeanors are handled by the county attorney. So that just gives you a little bit of why we have the city and the county, because our criminal justice system, the city and the county are definitely intertwined. And it takes us both, and both have needs and resources that actually benefit each other and then benefit the whole community. So thank you. I just thought I'd share the county side from my experience. Thank you.
Thank you. There's no further lights. Is there a motion? Motion to approve item number 25. And our second, roll call.
Johnson. Melton. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thanks. I think I estimated you'd be out of here by 3:30, and it's 3:25. Thanks for being here. Council members, item number 44 has been withdrawn by the Planning Department, and there's been a request to remove number 59 off the consent agenda. So first, we'll take public hearings on agenda items 30 through 43, 45 through 58, and number 60. These are items 30 through 43, 45 through 58, and number 60. Public hearings are today. Are there any proponents on these items? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearings are closed. There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Johnson. Melton. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 59, a resolution to approve payment in the amount of $500,000 to Canopy South to support the development of Plaza de la Raza in South Omaha.
The public hearing on number 59 is today. Proponents, please.
Marco Floriani, Mayor's Office. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Second.
There's a motion to approve in a second. No further lights. Roll call.
Johnson. Melton. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 61, a resolution to approve a resident commissioner to the Omaha Housing Authority.
Public hearing and vote on number 61 is today. Proponents, please.
Hello, I'm Kenya Barnes Hayward. I reside at 1613 Farnham Street, apartment 704 here in Omaha.
Good afternoon, council members. Joni Balk, 1823 Harney Street, Chief Executive Officer of the Omaha Housing Authority, here in support of Ms. Barnes's appointment to our Board of Commissioners. Just a little bit of background. Hopefully you all had received, I sent a 2-page summary. I'm seeing nods. I'm going to stop talking about that now. So just briefly, some information for the record to help in your decision making. So in last year's legislative session, LB 840 was passed. LB 840 included a number of changes to the Nebraska Housing Agency Act. One of those changes included the addition of 2 more resident commissioners to the Omaha Housing Authority's Board of Commissioners. So we already have 1 resident commissioner, the addition of 2 more. When that law took effect, we began efforts towards recruitment of a resident commissioner. How we recruit for a resident commissioner and what's required by Nebraska state statute is that we notify all residents, so all public housing residents and all housing choice voucher holders of the opening, and then they can submit their interest in our board. A couple of years ago, we formalized that process with a front and back application and a cover letter that indicates what the position is, all of that different information. So that is sent out to all of our residents. So on August 23rd, that information was sent to 6,397 households that are served by the Omaha Housing Authority. Ms. Barnes, I am proud to be here to support her nomination. She received her application in the mail since that's the method that we chose. I do want to say too, before I continue with my support of hers, we had a number of individuals who came to our office because they were already there doing other work, participating in other programming that we had, who asked for an application while they were at our office, and so we printed that off for them. One individual was so excited to potentially serve, he submitted 2 applications. So we did provide those applications in the packet that I provided to you all. I do have the verification from the United States Postal Service that 6,397 pieces of mail were mailed out. And then with regard to Ms. Barnes, we are excited for her to potentially join our Board of Commissioners. She previously served in Resident Advisory Council, Board Council roles with the Lincoln Housing Authority, and then was in the most recent cohort of the Municipal Land Banks Ambassador Program. So she does bring, in addition to being a resident, unique skill set. I think that will be really beneficial to achieving our mission of providing safe, quality, affordable housing throughout Omaha. So here, certainly in great support of her nomination and happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Thank you. Other proponents on number 61? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Joni, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you, Councilmember.
Should I say congratulations to your new name?
You can if you wish to do so.
Oh, okay. I think I kind of touched a sensitive matter, but
I do have a new name. I was divorced in November, so I went back to my maiden name.
Okay.
If that's helpful to you to know.
Not to me, but to the community. I had,
not quite sure why that's helpful to the community, ma'am.
Well, let me. Can I complete my thought there?
Sure.
I've been receiving phone calls as this item came on the agenda as it relates to these 2 appointments. And one of those conversations, not that it was anyone's business, but was the notice of your last name changing.
Sure.
And so quite naturally, they asked me if your name had changed. I didn't know. I said, well, I'm not sure that she did. I mean, but you're right. I mean,
sure.
I mean, it's not anyone's business. I agree with you, but I'm just.
Sure. I will share that I did actually send out notification to my entire organization because one of our core values is transparency, letting them know that my name had changed and the reason why it had changed. And I sent out notification to the entire council as well. And I'm seeing nods that everyone here received it.
Okay.
So, yes.
Okay, well.
So, because I didn't want anyone to have confusion in reaching me because my email address did change. If someone emails me at jpoor@OH-Authority, I will still get that, but my name is Joni Balk.
Great. So now we can put that to bed.
I thought it might have already been, but here we are in public talking about it.
Well, thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
And the other item was that there was no notification regarding these 2 appointments. You mentioned during your presentation that there was a new law change of LB 840.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you give a brief overview of what that law did in terms of this process that we are talking about today?
Sure. The only change that LB 840 had in relation to the resident commissioners was the addition of 2 additional resident commissioners, specifically for cities of the metropolitan class, which in the state of Nebraska is only Omaha. So that would be only the Omaha Housing Authority.
Okay. So typically, when these positions open, you put out a notification. Can you walk me through that process?
Sure. What we have done is we actually coordinate and contract with a printing company. So we have a cover letter that explains, and I believe this was emailed to you all, but I can also pop this up. I have never used this. Bear with me. Oh, yay, it worked. Because you pushed a button, thank you. So we actually provide a cover letter that explains that we do have an opening and that we are accepting applications for resident commissioner, that it is an unpaid position, and that when applications are due and where they can return them to. So that, along with an actual application, here is that application, and it is a front and back document, is provided to all residents. Again, all residents of our public housing program, and then all residents of our voucher program.
Okay, so you send that via mail, U.S.
Yes,
mail?
United States Postal Service. So here is the verification from Regal Printing, showing that they are, this is the pre-sort report for before they go with, what is the bulk mail? I was looking for that word. Thanks for your patience. For 6,397 records and for OHA's job. And then this is the verification from the United States Postal Service that they received 6,397 pieces of mail.
And it looks like that was what, August?
15th. August 15th is the date of both of these reports.
Okay. All right, and so about how many applications did you receive?
We received 65 applications.
Okay, and all 65 were submitted to the mayor? Or?
All of the applications were submitted to the mayor. We do screen the applications, and we do make recommendations to the mayor's office.
Okay. But she receives all 65 applications?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So I would have to conclude that the conversation that we're hearing, and you know, we do hear chatter from time to time, that most these individuals probably, just because of the mail system as a whole, sometimes we don't get our mail, and maybe they fell into those category, and then we went down this lane. Is that?
I don't know what happened. I know that we ran those reports and mailed them to, again, 6,397 of our public housing tenants, which would have been all of our public housing tenants, and then all of our voucher holders at the time.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what happened.
Okay. And then did that notification for the application to submit application, did you submit it through the Daily Record or any other place? It's just that one, you just put it in the mail and that's it?
Yeah, we provided the notification to every single household directly. We do not publicize it separately. We follow the statute's requirements, which is that we notify every adult member of the household. So we do that. We're not sure if every adult household would read the paper or be on social media or see a specific posting. So the way that we can ensure that they receive that is to direct mail it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, and my next question is for Director Kuzi. During our pre-council, we talked about a change from historical perspective as it relates to how we fill these positions. Can you explain, Mr. Kuzi, what this new law did that happened a year ago that you were referring to during our pre-council meeting today?
Mancusi Law Department, the statute we're talking about is 71-15, 104. It's the resident commissioner selection procedure, as Ms. Falk has indicated to you what that is. This statute first came into existence, I looked it up, in 1999 is when the legislature adopted it. Since then, it's only been modified twice, in 2018 by LB 399, and then, as you just referenced, last year in 2024 by LB 840. And aside from increasing the number of resident commissioners from, I believe it was 1 to 3, 1 is what the original one in 1991 was just one resident commissioner. The only change that has occurred in these 3 bill passages over the years has been increasing that from 1 resident commissioner to 3 resident commissioners.
Thank you. So the process regarding notification, can you confirm what the process is in terms of notification, the application process, and the overall process that arrives to the mayor's desk? If you could walk me through that process, Mr. Kuzi.
As Ms. Balk indicated to you what the process was, and that's the accurate process, that the statute requires them to notify the eligible resident commissioners, that they be notified that there's an opening and that they shall be able to apply if they're interested. The statute goes on to say, because they specifically single out Omaha, that for any housing agency established by a city of the metropolitan class, Omaha, 3 resident commissioners shall be selected by appointment. The mayor shall fill the positions, and the council shall vote on those nominations. So the process described by Ms. Balk is accurate, and quite frankly, that has been the process since this statute was originally enacted in 1999 by LB 105.
Thank you. Thank you, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bakley, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. President. Joni, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Happy New Year. I got the email on December 4th that was sent to the council, so I wish you a great, happy 2025.
Thank you so much.
A question for you. And the last time you were before council, we talked about the right to counsel for OHA tenants.
Yes.
And I think you had mentioned you were going to speak to Senator John Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Is there any update you can provide on that for us here today?
We have been reaching out to Senator Kavanaugh, trying to set up a meeting with him ahead of the session, and we have, I'm happy to say, have a Zoom meeting set up with him for tomorrow.
For tomorrow, you
Yes.
do? Okay. Would you mind, certainly I would like to know how that meeting goes.
Sure.
It's hard to get a hold of Senator Kavanaugh when he's in session,
Yep.
as you know, but if you have time to send at least an update on what the status of that is, that
Absolutely.
would be greatly appreciated, because I know we talked about that, and you were fair to want to work on that.
Yes,
So-
we, as an update for us, we did reach out to Brian Hansen, our general counsel, who I believe many of you are familiar with, did reach out to the Office of the Attorney General for Housing and Urban Development to ask specifically how we could and could not use our funding related specifically in response to the tenant representation portions of LB 840. And we did receive confirmation that there are no funds, and I can provide that letter as well, that are awarded to the Housing Authority available for use for tenant representation. So I can provide that to you. And Senator Kavanaugh, through a number of conversations, both at when the session was ending last year and then this summer, had indicated that his willingness to seek funding to help support this and or propose a cleanup bill where it would delay implementation until funding could be secured.
Okay, if you could, after you talk to Senator Kavanaugh, it doesn't got to be tomorrow when you
Yep.
talk to him, but please just keep me informed of that, because that's important that I at least get that information. I'm sure my colleagues would probably like it as well.
Absolutely. While we're on the subject, if you would allow me just briefly, we did meet directly with Senator McKinney and provided updates in December with regard to our implementation of all changes related to LB 840. So we are staying in very close communication because there were a number of broad changes that happened that are beyond that as well. So,
Okay.
but definitely I'll keep you in the loop.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
A question for Ms. Hayward.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. Thanks for being here
afternoon.
today and putting yourself in position for this appointment. Just one question for you. OHA, they have major challenges, as we all know. They work every day for housing for people that can't otherwise provide for themselves. What do you see your role as in this position going forward?
I see my role as being an inspiration as well as putting hands on the situation since I live there. I'm very versed with the residents, and I'm very familiar with the concerns, and I have a rapport with the majority of all the residents where I live.
Okay, I appreciate, again, you being here today. And it's an important role that not a lot of people want to step into, but I wish you luck. And it's a lot of challenges, but I'm hopeful and praying for and confident that you can handle them and we make improvements going forward. Thanks, Ms. President.
Well, thank you as well.
Thank you. Ms. Milton.
Thank you. Well, first, I just wanted to say, you don't have to come back down. I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your willingness to volunteer for this position and for all of the other volunteer things that you do. Because when I read your resume, you're always willing to lend a hand at the Rose Theater, even at our election commission. As a greeter, you are definitely a fabulous volunteer in our community. And I just want to thank you for everything that you do and all the time you spend.
Thank you, and it would be a pleasure and an honor. Thank you.
And 65 applications out of about 6,000 being sent, that means literally over 10% of the people that received it actually applied. That's actually a huge number. That's a huge response. We were just this morning, there was a tornado response survey going out, and I think you received 65 applications, right?
1%.
Oh, I'm sorry, 1%. Sorry. Oh, my math is off, isn't it?
We're still
me and Cheryl were off on math today.
We're still happy to have 65 interested individuals for a volunteer position.
But you got 65 applications for this. So I guess when I saw that people were questioning that they were sent out, you received 65 that people had to actually mail back or
come to the office.
Come to your office and take back in.
Yes, ma'am.
So 65 people were interested in this position where there were only 2 positions open.
Correct.
And in all honesty, I don't know that we get that many applications if we were to call someone who goes over that from the mayor's office for any of those board positions. Right. I don't know that you get 65 applications. So that was a really big response, in my opinion.
Certainly, we don't have that level of interest in non-resident commissioner position. And so we were excited for that and to have resident voice at the commission meetings and a high-level leadership is important. It's the forefront. It's why we exist. We need to have and understand what it is that our tenants are experiencing, and to have that voice there at the meetings is critical.
Well, and I appreciate the addition to the statute and adding 2 more resident members. I think just having 1, it doesn't give you the broader perspective. It would only give you a single perspective. But having 3 on the board, I think is very beneficial to the board and more beneficial to the residents because they'll have more people that they can even interact with as opposed to just 1.
Definitely.
So I think this change was really good, and I appreciate you sending us everything that you did, and I appreciate you following the statute and obviously whatever you did kind of worked because you got those applications in. Yep. So it was probably tough to pick.
It was. We've had a committee that we've set up to do that work, and I actually don't even see the applications until the process is concluded, and then I review everything, compile all of it, and send it over to the mayor's office. But it was exciting to see the level of interest that we have. Again, for a volunteer position, our board meetings are during the day. As you all know, you've got to make yourself available while still managing many of the other responsibilities that we have in life. So. To do that and while being a resident and managing, just day to day is a lot.
Yeah, I would agree. And thank you for taking the time to come down to this meeting too, that you're not getting paid to do. So we really appreciate it. So I'm fully supportive.
Thank you.
Both positions. So I won't speak on the next one, but I fully support both.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'll support both positions as well. And also, Ms. Hayward, thanks for your willingness to serve. We appreciate it. And we are counting on you to advocate and represent the tenants, and I know you will, judging by your remarks today and your background. And I think this will increase the diversity on the board, too, which is an important thing as well.
Yes.
Joni, we talked this morning a little bit about the process, and I think thanks for going through that with us and explaining how that was done. I think that's also important in a situation like this. We also talked about an update to the current challenges as well. Sure. I wanted to give you an opportunity to speak to that a little bit today. Not touching upon any matters of litigation, but yes. I'm just interested in the update because we've talked about it a lot here. as to our efforts to the extermination issues we've experienced in all towers, but I know Dundee Tower is a current pilot project for you.
Sure, absolutely. And I will, thank you. I will reiterate that I can't comment on pending litigation, as any of you would not be able to comment on any pending litigation. What I can share is that, as has been our longstanding practice, we employ our own team of pest control technicians who use the same commercial grade chemicals and skills and techniques as contractors out in the community. We also work with contractors to deliver those same services in our scattered site units. Our team works within our towers. We expanded that team within the last year, adding another individual to that team. And then in addition to that, a few meetings ago, I had shared that we were working to implement heat treatment rooms. It is not practical to heat an entire floor or even one unit because the bugs will leave that unit. So, but it is practical to seal a room and set up a room for heat treatment purposes. So we are doing that at all of our towers, the first of which has been up and running and is underway at Underwood Tower. And we are seeing positive things from that. We're still very much in beta testing mode. There's lots of things to work out because individuals have to move items in. Some people want to move those things, treat things on their way in. Some people need to do it when they report an issue or a problem or a concern. So we're really excited to have that available to our tenants as well. We anticipate over the next year being able to have that service available throughout the rest of our towers. We do have 10 more towers, so being able to deploy that is just a matter of time and resources. Park Towers, I believe, will be our next project. So since we have 2 of those and a couple of hundred tenants, we're looking at 1 in each of those towers.
Yeah, I think I said Dundee Tower, but it is Underwood Tower.
You're
where
fine.
You're doing the pilot
Yes.
project, and you would characterize that as going well and being effective, and you do expect it to go to all towers this year.
Yes, and I think we still have a lot to learn on scheduling and those things. Sometimes we have very vulnerable tenants or elderly tenants who need additional time or need additional resources in order to move their things in or move their things out. And so just making sure that we're doing that. We've purchased racking and carts and garment holders and those sorts of things so people can bring their things in and have them effectively treated. And then, of course, cleaning the room before and after and all of those sorts of things. So just learning all the logistics of that and making sure that we take that learning and apply it to the next location.
Okay. And then I want to talk to you about one more topic too. We had a lot of conversation this morning with planning and public safety committees and city personnel about, excuse me, sir? Yep.
On what the motion is on the floor. This is, I'm going to take a page from Mr. Storr. This is out of order.
I don't believe it is. It's an OHA issue we're just discussing.
You're talking about an OHA issue. What the resolution is on our agenda is the approval of this board appointment. What you're doing is out of order.
I don't believe I'm out of order, and I believe that's my judgment. I appreciate your comment on it. I think we're talking about important OHA,
I think it
OHA
totally
issues
diminishes
with the director who's here.
the applicant or who we're considering here. I think that's disrespectful to her. We should be making the vote on her nomination.
That vote will happen here in a second. I don't agree with the out of order, but that vote will happen here momentarily, and I'll welcome a motion on that at any time. I'll second that. Ms. Poore, my last question for you before you vote on the nomination is, we had a substantial conversation this morning about the City View Apartments.
Yes,
I think that's a very important issue right now, and I want to make it clear it's not an OHA property,
it is not.
but in our discussion this morning, you have several OHA tenants there, Section 8 tenants.
Yes.
I merely wanted to ask you that I know you're involved in that issue, you're concerned about it, and you intend to inspect those units as an OHA entity.
Yes, we did speak about this morning, and we had heard, as many others, about the complaints that had happened. So I reached out to our director who oversees our inspections department and our director who oversees our voucher department. We have 37 voucher holders who are currently at City View Apartments. We had heard that potentially elevators were out of order and a number of other things. So we were able to go in and inspect all of the common areas for any health and safety safety issues that would fall within our inspection standards, and we did that yesterday. Someone had shattered the glass in the front door, so that was the only health and safety issue that we were able to find and indicate that needed to be responded to immediately. However, we also provided notice to all 37 of our voucher holders that we will be coming in to inspect units on Saturday. We are deploying our team, especially on Saturday, just to come in and provide that additional inspection. That way, if they need additional support, we can advocate from our end as well with the property owner.
Thank you.
You're
I think
welcome.
It was important for the public to know that. There is a motion and a second. Mr. Harding, do you have the floor?
I have my light on.
You're recognized.
Yes, Joni, could you give us an update on the issue of the house over on about 123rd and West Prairie?
Yes, I can. We
Actually,
okay, yeah.
you can talk to me later when it's more appropriate.
Okay.
But Ms. Barnes-Hayward, I'm sorry that this wasn't about you. It should have been about you. So I was happy to make the motion for your the approval for your nomination.
I feel like this was about her, and we've been very complimentary to her appointment, and we are looking forward to your participation. There's a motion and a second on the floor. Roll call.
Johnson. Melton. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 62, a resolution to approve a resident commissioner to the Omaha Housing Authority.
The public hearing on number 62 is today. Proponents, please.
Hello again. Joni Balk, 1823 Harney Street, Omaha Housing Authority, here in strong support for Mr. Abdiaziz Salad Hussein. He was not able to be here today, but he brings a unique perspective, very similarly to Ms. Barnes-Hayward. He not only is a resident and has been a longtime resident in a couple of different properties of ours, but he actually also had been employed with our organization. He has not been for well over 4 years, but I think that brings a very unique perspective. There are very few people who could say that they understand what it's like to both work for the Housing Authority and live with the Housing Authority and then come and serve on our Board of Commissioners. He also is a very strong leader in the African community and has worked with a number of our partner organizations and developed positive relationships. So I strongly support his appointment. Happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you. Any other proponents on number 62? Seeing none. Any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Ms. Johnson? Is your light on, Ms. Johnson?
It is.
Go ahead.
Thank you. You can remain seated. I just wanted to say thank you for providing a explanation as it relates to Mr. Hussein, who is absent today, and perhaps providing us with information about who he is and his experience, et cetera. Also, it is refreshing to see that we are now changing the landscape or the narrative of the committee members that we have now. That's very reassuring, and I really appreciate all of that. However, as a city council member, I have the responsibility to report back or educate the public. And it is also refreshing for the public to see who these individuals are. They need to have a face. They need to have some introduction. They need to be able to put a name with a face. And as a person that have to make a decision regarding due diligence, it's very hard for me to make those decisions without an individual being present here to make an objective decision. And so unfortunately, I will not be able to support this nomination. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bagley, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. President. I'll be supporting this nomination today. And I thank Council President Festerson for the prior comments on City View that I wasn't aware of, but those are some of the things I was running down, and I'll look forward to getting an update from you on that. And as resident commissioners, these are OHA issues. It's important that everybody understands that, and that's why I thank the two appointments here today for stepping in to do that tough work for addressing needs of housing and the things in our community. So I'll be supportive of item number 62 today as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Melton.
Yeah, and I just wanted to note that Mr. Hussein, he's currently employed and he works 40 to 60 hours per week as a transportation manager. Therefore, he's working today because what he does is he manages and drives the youth in our community to outreach places. He provides transportation for over 200 plus youth with before and after school transportation. So clearly, there would be a number of young people who would not be able to get where they needed to go if he came down here in order to appear before us for this volunteer job, and it would probably cost his family money because he probably wouldn't get paid for that time. So I completely understand that
Yes.
he needed to show up for his job.
And I
couldn't
appreciate
be
you
here today.
pointing that out. He is working and supporting his family of 15.
Oh.
15.
Yeah,
So I think it's important that he, is commended for that as well. And I do understand the importance of seeing and meeting someone. I think that can be accomplished in other ways as well, especially when, I would hope that there could be consideration given that he is, a resident who is working and supporting, a very large family.
No, and I understand that. And if we ever do, we can always call and ask someone to meet them for coffee before they go to work, after
Absolutely.
work, on a Saturday, on a Sunday.
Our meetings like yours are public. You're welcome to come and meet our commissioners then too. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate
so
it.
much.
And if there wasn't, is there a motion to approve made yet? If not, motion to approve.
Motion and a second to approve. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you. I also would like to point out that Omaha Housing Authority is a public entity, and this vote is regarding a public matter. And again, as a city council individual, not that I'm not sympathetic to the individual's needs and how he is contributing overall to the community, I still have a due diligent responsibility to ensure that I'm making an informed decision. I'm not able to do that. Respectfully, I would ask that people consider that and not put me in a situation where I'm having to answer or reply this every time such a matter comes before this body. Thank you.
Thank you. There's no further lights. There was a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Pug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-1.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Item 63, a resolution to approve the appointment of a voting member to the Omaha Municipal Land Bank Board of Directors.
The public hearing on number 63 is today. Proponents, please.
Grace Danielle Kwasi, 4318 Monroe Street, Omaha, Nebraska, 68107.
Thank you. Any other proponents today?
Cheryl Weston, 1124 Pacific Street, Omaha, Nebraska, 68108. I'm here to support Grace because I attend the Omaha Municipal Land Bank meetings on a regular basis. And since she came on board in 2024, she has been a very valuable member. She took the position as a non-voting member. However, she brings forth some very important issues. She questions things. She just doesn't go along with it. I believe she's also on the acquisition committee. And so I've been told that she's very active, involved in that, in asking questions about the properties. And that concerns me because many of the properties, 80-some% of them, are all located in District 2, North Omaha. So I would be here to support her to become a voting member because I think she will bring her energies and her knowledge. She's very involved in real estate and has her own, I think it's cleaning business. It's home renovation. I'm very supportive of her becoming a voting member for the Omaha Municipal Land Bank. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Grace, hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Just want to thank you for coming today, taking time out of your busy schedule to come before us. Also, those that are here as well as those that are online, they do have the opportunity of meeting you as well. Our land bank meeting generally is at 9 o'clock in the morning, and the population, many of them have other obligations to go to work and satisfy needs, financial needs for their households, and very often are not able to attend a land bank meeting. So again, I'd like to thank you, and also thank you for the work that you've already done in the role as a non-voting member, and now what we can expect from you as you advance to a voting member. Thank you. I'm in full support of this nomination.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hug.
Good afternoon, Grace.
Good afternoon.
I'm sorry you had to sit out there for so long.
It's okay.
I guess the good part is it could have been longer.
True.
But anyway, I want to thank you also for applying to be a voting member. But would you enlighten the rest of us and tell us how long you've already been on the land bank, please?
Yes, I started, I believe, back in June 2024 as a non-voting member, and I sat in the finance committee for that long, and the opportunity came, I believe, last December to become a voting member. So I said yes.
Well, thanks again for being committed to the land bank. We look forward to hearing more good things about you.
Yeah, I appreciate it,
Thank
and
you.
thank you as well for considering me. Thanks to the mayor office and everybody involved in the decision. It's an honor for me to do that, and I'm learning a lot, and I look forward to continuing to supporting the community and doing good things here. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Johnson. Melton. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 64, an ordinance to acquire private property for the 33rd and Hamilton Street intersection improvements project.
The public hearing on number 64 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 65, an ordinance to acquire private property for the North Saddle Creek Business District streetscape projects.
Public hearing on number 65 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 66, an ordinance to acquire private property for the Signal Infrastructure Phase F1 project.
Public hearing on number 66 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 67, an ordinance to approve a major amendment to the Maple Valley Mixed-Use District Development Agreement to allow kennel as a permitted use at 16510 Bedford Avenue. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend denial.
Public hearing on number 67 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon, Council. Richard Stahl, 9346 Dutch Mill Lane, Lincoln, Nebraska.
Thank you. Just here to answer questions?
Sorry?
Just to answer questions? Or did you want to?
Well, sure.
Okay.
Recognizing that the city and their zoning ordinances, this does not fall. I've also been doing this for 9 months with K9 Resorts. I've been approved as the franchise owner-operator for a K9 resort here in Omaha, Nebraska. We started this process last April. I went through the zoning process, hired a zoning attorney, recognizing that it was denied by your planning board. I also wanted to appeal to the council because I also know the council has made exceptions to this rule in the past. And I want to bring a high-quality dog boarding and dog daycare facility to Omaha. That's my intent and my desire. We don't call it a kennel, we call it a resort. And I recognize that the issue before you is outdoor space. Our outdoor spaces are used for the purpose of a minimal amount of outdoor play, mostly for the purposes of allowing the dogs to do what dogs need to do outside, and that's go to the bathroom. On a day like today, the dogs probably wouldn't be outside for more than 30 to 40 minutes. It's too cold. In the summer when it's too hot, we don't let them out either. So I guess I'm pleading in my case before this council to ask for your consideration so that I can bring a business to Omaha. My investment here would be well over $2 million, and we'd be bringing about 25 jobs to the city of Omaha. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other proponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Hug, you're recognized.
Are we allowed to ask questions?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sir?
Sure.
This has no bearing other than my own curiosity. Are you an Omaha resident?
I'm sorry?
Are you an Omaha resident?
Not at the moment. I live in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Okay.
I have a son who lives here in Papillion, so I have family here.
All right. Do you operate an existing business similar to the one you're proposing in Lincoln?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You bet.
I don't think I see any other lights. Next item.
Item 68, an ordinance to approve a major amendment to the West Dodge Station Mixed-Use District Development Agreement to allow surface parking at 18325 Cummings Street. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing on number 68 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon. Michael Holden with Earhart Griffin and Associates, 3552 Farnham Street. Here on behalf of the owner, Brett Edwards. I would like to thank the Planning Board for all their help and coordination so far, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any other proponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. No lights. So next item, please.
Item 69, an ordinance to accept and authorize disbursement from the Department of Justice, United States Marshal Service Joint Law Enforcement Operations Task Force in the amount of $87,043 to be utilized by the Omaha Police Department to support overtime operations.
Public hearing on number 69 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 70, an ordinance to approve a contract with the University of Nebraska for the Emergency Medical Care Services Program of the Omaha Fire Department.
Public hearing on number 70 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Non-action items, items 71 through 92, do not require public hearing or city council consideration at this meeting, but will be placed on a future agenda for public hearing and or vote. The reason for non-action is noted after the item on the agenda, as well as the date the item is expected to appear on an agenda for consideration.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Roll call.
Johnson. Melton. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Meeting is adjourned at 4:12.